My unfaithful fiancé demanded, "I want my share of the wedding fund returned." Despite contributing only 20% of the total, I replied, "Fair enough," and proceeded to transfer her half of the remaining $1,500 after settling with all the vendors. This led to her frantically screaming on the phone, accusing me of stealing her money. I'm Logan, a 29-year-old male, and I haven't had a decent night's sleep in 3 days. My stomach feels as if it's filled with shards of glass. Just a few nights ago, I discovered that my fiancé, Alexis, 27, has been unfaithful for nearly a year. The woman I had planned to marry in 4 months has been replaced by a self-entitled, shouting stranger who now accuses me of grand larceny. The entire situation is chaotic. We had set our wedding budget at $15,000. As a project manager with financial stability, I gladly took on the bulk of the expenses, contributing $12,000, while Alexis, a freelance graphic designer, added $3,000. I believed we were a team. Save on costs, we decided to pay several major vendors in full ahead of time, which resulted in a 10% discount on their fees, a practical decision at the time. I managed the contracts and payments through a joint savings account designated for our wedding expenses. We paid the venue, a charming rustic barn, $7,000 in full. The caterer associated with the venue, $4,000. A $1,500 retainer to the photographer. And a $1,000 deposit to a wedding coordinator, who bundled various services at a total fee of $2,000. In total, $13,500 was disbursed from our wedding account, with all contracts clearly stating that these payments were non-refundable. This left us with $1,500 in the account for the past few months. I had sensed Alexis pulling away, attributing it to the stress of wedding planning. Late nights spent working with a new client and her tendency to angle her phone away from me raised my suspicions. Despite that unsettling feeling in my gut, I chose to ignore it. I loved her and trusted her. That trust shattered one fateful Tuesday night. As she dozed on the couch, her phone lit up with a text notification from Randy. Just the preview made me feel nauseous. My heart raced and my hands trembled. Against my better judgment, I opened her phone and uncovered a hidden life filled with betrayal, a lengthy, calculated affair rather than a mere drunken mistake. Emails revealing hotel receipts and work trips that were actually rendezvous with him lay open before me. In that moment, I didn't explode. My body went into shock. I walked to the bathroom and vomited, kneeling on the cold tile, struggling to breathe as the weight of betrayal bore down on me. The woman I loved turned out to be a creation of my own imagination. Around 3 a.m., a different emotion crept in, a cold, clear understanding of her calculated choices made solely for her benefit, without regard for me. I realized that an emotional outburst would only provide her with the drama she thrived on. I resolved to respond with the same level of calculation. The next morning, our confrontation was subdued. I didn't raise my voice. Instead, I placed her phone on the kitchen island between us while she prepared coffee. Her cheerful good morning faded instantly as her face drained of color. The usual excuses began to spill out. "It's not what you think. We were just talking and you invaded my privacy." I interrupted her, stating, "Alexis, it's over. I've seen." The sudden shift in her demeanor was unnerving. "You can't do this. We have a wedding to prepare for. We have a life together," she protested. "No," I replied, my tone devoid of emotion. "We don't. I'm canceling the wedding today." In an instant, her previously tear-filled eyes sharpened, narrowing as a look of pure transactional greed replaced her facade. It was a sight I had never encountered before, and it sent a chill down my spine. "Fine," she hissed, her voice laced with venom. "I don't care, but I want my money. We deposited $15,000 into that account, and I want my half." The audacity of her demand was astounding. After everything she had done, her first instinct was to seize a financial opportunity. But I was ready for her. "Fair enough," I responded, maintaining my composure. "You are entitled to your half." Smug, triumphant smirk crept across her face. "Good. I expect a transfer of $7,500 today. I simply nodded. I'll transfer you your half of the remaining funds right now. I headed to the office with her closely trailing behind, standing in the doorway with her arms crossed, as if to ensure I wouldn't cheat her. I logged into the bank account, initiated the transfer, and sent her $750. Her phone buzzed, and as she looked down, her smirk faltered, quickly giving way to disbelief and then pure fury. $750, she screamed, her voice breaking. Are you kidding? Me? Where's my money? Where's my $3,000? I swiveled around in my chair and calmly displayed the spreadsheet on my monitor. Our wedding fund had $15,000. Of that, $13,500 has already been paid to vendors in non-refundable amounts. The contracts you reviewed are clear, so the remaining balance in the account is $1,500. You demanded half. Half of $15,000 is $750. You received exactly what you asked for. Fair is fair. What followed was a barrage of unhinged screams. She accused me of orchestrating this entire scenario of scamming her. I watched as she frantically called her mother, crying that I had stolen thousands from her. I remained seated, feeling nothing but cold relief at having made a definitive choice. She had created this situation. I merely provided the invoice. As she packed her belongings, slamming drawers and making a scene, I couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. For the first time in a year, I felt as if I was no longer the one being played for a fool. Update: the past 2 weeks have felt like an eternity. I want to extend my gratitude to everyone who commented on my initial post. Knowing I wasn't losing my sanity was a lifeline. As many of you predicted, Alexis's entitlement didn't cease when she walked out. It simply became more calculated. Her move-out process was a cruel exercise in pettiness. She didn't just take half the toilet paper. She selected items she knew would hurt me. A framed photo of my late grandfather she claimed she thought it was a gift, and the silly souvenir snow globe from our first vacation together. These small, seemingly insignificant items became targeted emotional blows. The day after she left, I received a call from her father, Vincent. I had previously thought he was a decent man, but I was mistaken. There were no pleasantries exchanged. He launched straight into the accusation. Logan, Alexis tells me you've stolen her savings. I took a deep breath, opting to counter his aggression with calmness. Vincent, it's good to hear from you. I haven't stolen anything. The money Alexis contributed was allocated for its intended purpose, not refundable payments for the wedding. A wedding, I assume she informed you, has been canceled because she has been having an affair. There was a moment of silence before he responded. She said you two had a disagreement and you overreacted. His tone was cold and dismissive. Frankly, the reasons don't matter. She's a young woman trying to start anew, and you're holding her $3,000 hostage out of spite. That's a bad look. Just give her the money and be a man about it. Anger surged within me, but I suppressed it. Vincent, there is no money to give. It's gone. It was paid to the venue and the caterer. If Alexis believes she is owed that money, her dispute lies with them, not with me. I would be more than happy to send you the fully executed contracts. In this instance, I found myself devoid of any anger. Instead, I felt a sense of pity. I opted for a brief, 2-line email response. Alexis, your belongings have been placed in a storage unit, for which I have covered the first month's payment. Here is the address and the access code. Please ensure that you remove your name and items from my insurance and phone plans by the end of the month. I reached out to both the photographer and the wedding coordinator. The photographer turned out to be quite understanding. He informed me that my $1,500 retainer had been misplaced. Yet he offered a 50% discount on any future session, which I appreciated. Conversely, the wedding coordinator retained the $1,000 deposit in accordance with our contract. Unfortunately, The majority of the funds, $11,000 paid to the venue and caterer, were irretrievable. It was a costly lesson, and there was no way to transform the situation into a positive outcome. The only true victory was resisting their attempts to extort me for a second payment. The real sense of justice lay not in reclaiming the lost money, but in compelling them to acknowledge their loss as a consequence of her choices. Fast forward 6 months, and I find that the dust has settled, allowing me to reclaim my life. The healing journey has been gradual and often uneven, but progress is being made. I felt compelled to provide one last update for those who have been following my story. As I anticipated, the legal threats from Alexis's father never materialized. However, approximately a month after my previous update, I received a formal letter from a lawyer retained by Alexis. The letter demanded $2,250, which included her share minus the $750 I had already sent her, citing claims of unjust enrichment and emotional distress. My heart sank momentarily, but then I reminded myself of my strategy. I gathered the letter, my binder of contracts, bank statements, and a printout of the email where she requested her half, and sought a 1-hour consultation with a lawyer. After reviewing the documents, he wore a small smile and confirmed what I already knew. She lacked a viable case. The contracts were solid. He then crafted a response that was both concise and effective, outlining the facts, including copies of crucial documents, and politely asserting that any legal claims should be directed toward the vendors who had received the non-refundable payments. The final paragraph of my lawyer's response was particularly astute. It stated, "Should your client choose to pursue litigation against Mr. Last Name, we will vigorously defend ourselves and seek to recover all associated legal fees, which will likely exceed the amount in question." We never heard from her lawyer again. The potential costs of a lawsuit, which she would undoubtedly lose, far outweighed the amount she was pursuing. It became a futile endeavor, and her intimidation tactics were unsuccessful. As for Randy, the man involved in her affair, the aftermath was far more mundane and, in some respects, unsettling. I never sought him out, but a few months ago, I crossed paths with a mutual acquaintance who is familiar with his social circle. It turns out Randy is not married, but rather a bachelor known for his charm and aversion to commitment. There was no wife to uncover his infidelity, nor was there a dramatic divorce. Simply moved on. Alexis dismantled her 5-year relationship and her engagement for someone who likely forgot her name shortly after their separation. She was not a tragic victim caught in a web of manipulation, but merely another fleeting encounter in his life. In a way, this felt like a more fitting and disheartening consequence for her than any vindictive retribution I could have envisioned. As for Alexis, her life appears to have stagnated. From what I've gathered, she has moved back in with her parents, and her freelance business has suffered. It seems that the narrative of being a victim does not pay the bills. And many of her professional contacts who were also our mutual friends are now aware of the complete story. Her attempts to portray me as the villain have backfired, leading to her isolation. Reports suggest that her parents remain furious, yet their anger has nowhere to be directed. They cannot confront me and must contend with the repercussions of their daughter's choices as she lives. Under their roof, reflecting on my own journey, the initial months were undeniably challenging, filled with anger and sadness. I sold the television and couch, redecorating the living room, which felt cathartic as it allowed me to erase her presence from my space. I used the discount from the photographer to capture some professional portraits with my dog. While it may sound trivial, it symbolized my effort to reclaim my identity in life. I've also started dating casually again. It feels strange, but this harrowing experience has taught me to be fiercely protective of my peace. I've realized that true justice isn't always about dramatic public victories. Sometimes it's about standing firm with quiet, unassailable facts and allowing the other person's sense of entitlement and rage to shatter against the wall of your integrity. She wanted half. She received half of what remained after the damage she inflicted. I was left with the other half and the freedom to create something new, given the circumstances. I find that to be an acceptable outcome.